Hello and welcome to Glitch History, the show where we take a deep dive into the history of glitches in video games, how they affected casual play, as well as speedruns, and how they were utilized in each context. Today we are going to cover one of my all-time favorites, The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. As stated in my previous video, I used to speedrun Ocarina of Time, and so it translated over very well when I started running Majora's Mask. Once I achieved my 22-minute 34-second time in Ocarina of Time, I was already very burnt out, knowing I wouldn't come back to Ocarina of Time for a while, but not quite wanting to start over and learn a new game. I started to watch prominent runners at the time, such as Anop112, Goron Guy, and even ZFG when he got into it. So it goes without saying that I know almost as much about this game as I know about Ocarina of Time. So let's get started. Number 1. Bomb tricks. I know I explained these in my Ocarina of Time video, but there are some key differences between the games. For example, bomb hovering and super sliding are much easier, however, hyperextended super slide is harder in my opinion. This is because in Majora's Mask, bombs reach their full blast radius immediately, versus in Ocarina of Time where they slowly expand over the course of a few frames. Knowing this, it would make sense why hovering and one bomb super slides are much easier to perform, but also why hyperextended super slides are harder and have to be performed differently. Additionally, if you do a hyperextended super slide, there's a certain frame window where the game will crash outright. However, that being said, we can move on to a few Majora's Mask exclusive glitches. Number 2. Hidden Owl Statue. So it first must be stated that in this game, instead of a number of warp songs that take you to different locations, instead there is a single warp song that you activate owl statues around the world and use to warp to them. Now this glitch will only work if you haven't activated any of the owl statues in the game. Now navigate to West Clocktown and use your bombs to hover over the loading zone to North Clocktown. Now once you are over, simply hit the out of bounds owl statue with your sword, and you have successfully activated the hidden owl statue. But what is the point of all this? Well, it goes like this. When you activate the hidden owl statue, it sets a value that allows you to select an area on your map screen. Then use the Song of Soaring to warp to a corresponding destination based on the value of the area selected on the map. For example, if you were trying to warp to Stone Tower, you would select Goron Village, and so on and so forth. To explain why this happens, we first need to understand how the Song of Soaring works. Normally, if you play the Song of Soaring with no owl statues activated, it will pop up a message saying that you need to hit an owl statue to soar anywhere. But when the hidden owl statue is activated, it tells the game that it can open the warp map. However, because the hidden owl has no index ID within this map, it will default to value 0, which is Gray Bay. Now, as we know, we can use the map subscreen to change the warp destination. That being said, this glitch is immensely useful in both speedrun and casual play. Number 3. Zora clipping. This one is fairly simple, so I'll just show you a clip and explain the interaction after. Now what exactly happened there? So what I did is, as Zora, I pressed and held the B button, then held Z while still holding B, then pressed A while still holding B and Z. All of this together causes the game to get confused and teleport you forward a small bit. And if we examine this a little bit closer, we can understand why. So when you are holding B, Zora Link will bring up his fins for you to aim. And when you hold Z at the same time, it will change Link's state slightly so that you can still aim up and down, but move side to side as well. Much like when human Link does the same interaction with the bow or hookshot. However, Zora can jump slash out of this state, and by continuing to hold B and Z, when the jump slash concludes, you will warp forward a little bit, because the game is trying to quickly correct Zora Link's animation to be back in the fin throwing state. This is very useful in a couple different places, but it is mostly used to get past the guards in Deku Palace. Number 4. Zeroth Day. This one is a bit complicated compared to the last entry, so I will start by explaining how the 3-day system works in this game. So every hour in the game is 1 minute in real life. In other words, there are 24 minutes in a full game day, or 72 minutes in a full 3-day cycle. So to activate the 0th day glitch, we must first save at the hidden owl statue that we have discussed previously. Once you load back in, you should be at the mayor's residence. Now simply store the Song of Time by hovering out of bounds and playing it in full before you void out. Now simply go to your desired location and activate any text box. Upon closing it, the Song of Time text box will appear. Simply select yes and you will activate the 0th day. But the method I'm more familiar with is the observatory method. Simply look through the telescope near the end of the final day, and in the last second before the day starts, close the telescope action. And there you go, 0th day. However, the 0th day is a day that is outside of the normal cycle, and so it has some very weird properties, such as the Happy Mask salesman telling you that there's 95 hours left, Mikhail not being present in the ocean, and many, many more. If you ask me, I believe this day is before the start of day 1, and I believe it's used for cutscenes, like when Andrew is shown in her wedding ceremony during the end credits, and when Skull Kid, Link, and the Happy Mask salesman are interacting in the cutscene after you defeat the final boss. However, that's just a theory. A game! Number 5. Skippable items. Let's do a thought experiment real quick. Think of what items are absolutely required to beat the game. Got your list? Great. Now take at least 5 items off of it, including Goron Mask and Lullaby, Elegy of Emptiness, Ice Arrows, and Magic Beans, all of which are required in normal play, but if we use a combination of glitches we can skip all of them and possibly more. Now, in Majora's Mask, there is a fairy fountain in every main area of the game. However, the fountains themselves are all connected on the same map. What this means is that when you enter the fairy fountain in Woodfall, you can use bomb hovers and mega flips if you're able to traverse to the Snowhead fairy fountain, which happens to be just past the section which requires the lullaby. You can then use a multitude of movement tech and glitches to progress through Snowhead Temple, and as we all know, Goat has never required the Goron Mask to defeat. Now, to skip Elegy of Emptiness, it's fairly the same procedure. Use movement tech and various glitches that we have already covered. However, there is one catch that takes a specific glitch to get past. When you need to flip Stone Tower Temple, you must first use the switch to move the block, uncovering the crystal for you to hit it with the light arrows. However, we can achieve this by using a specific roll just as we shoot the light arrow, to push the block forward through the arrow, allowing the arrow to hit the crystal and invert the tower. Now, to skip ice arrows, it's very, very easy. There's only 2 places in the game they're required. Firstly, to get into the boss key room in Great Bay Temple. However, you can just hover to it very easily. And second, to enter Ikena. But of course, you could just walk to the edge of the cliff and manually aim your hookshot at the tree. In fact, I've used this since long before I ever did speedruns. It never actually clicked in my mind as a kid to use the ice arrows on the Octoroks, so I just did this instead and found my way up. And lastly, Magic Beans, which of course can be skipped using bomb hovering. See, I told you it's one of the most useful glitches. Number 6. Time Stop. Since the last entry was a bit of a long one, let's break it up with something a bit shorter. For this glitch, all we need is Link to be holding a blue bottle, or a bottle with something inside of it, then simply pressing the bottle button and the shield button at the same time. If done properly, it will result in the camera zooming in on Link as it does in the animation where he drops his bottled item. However, you will still be in control. It is very much worth noting that in this state your controls are reversed and skewed slightly. The main use for this trick in speedruns is to enter Stone Tower Temple by activating the block, then time stop, and finally canceling time stop when you're on the block. Cancel time stop, simply press C up. Now, because you're on the block, when it's moved back in place, you will be carried with it, crossing the gap and saving those precious bombs for future hovers. Beyond that though, it's much more useful in a casual play context as you can use it to skip cutscenes, stop timers, and much, much more. Number 7. SRM, or Stale Reference Manipulation. This one is very hard to understand, and as such, it is even harder to explain. so please bear with me as I do my best to give the facts in a way that isn't just reading code and address values. So to start, in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, there is something called an actor heap, or the area within memory that every actor, as well as their position and angle information, are stored. We can manipulate the actor heap by dropping bombs, breaking pots, or grass, or transitioning loading triggers within the same zone, such as entering a door or an area where it loads a new map while keeping the same zone overall loaded. For example, in Southern Swamp, when you move towards Coom and Kotak's potion shop, and through these actions we can ensure that the stale reference is manipulating the correct memory addresses. Stale references can be achieved in many ways, but the main idea is that there must be a loaded actor that is attached to an unloaded actor. The easiest method to achieve SRM is through carrying an unloaded actor over Link's head. An easy way to achieve this is through a specific super slide off of the pot in the bottom of the observatory, and if done properly, the pots won't blow up and won't be on screen when you transition loading zones. These things combined will result in Link holding an unloaded object. But why is any of this useful? To fully understand this, we must first know that SRM is split into three main categories. Level 1, which can be defined as manipulating the position and angle data of objects and actors. For example, if I want the pot in the bottom of the observatory to spawn in a different place, theoretically we can achieve that. Level 2, which allows us to change the function of an object or actor. As an example of this, when you look at an enemy, it causes a draw function to happen, which is what loads in the model of the enemy. However, we can change this draw function to other functions. And level 3, which most people will know much better as arbitrary code execution, which is by far one of the most powerful glitches in gaming history. This is what is used to warp to the moon, but it goes so much further than that. It allows you to run whatever code you want, even custom code you have written, and so you can imagine the insane possibilities of this, like changing Link's tunic color, or loading a completely faithful copy of the original Donkey Kong arcade cabinet. The possibilities with this glitch are truly endless, and as such, it would be truly impossible to put into perspective the sheer usefulness of this glitch, even at its lowest level to speedrunners. Number 8. Ride Epona in any form. The last entry was long, so we'll end by covering a silly glitch that has no real use outside of the novelty of it. However, this is a glitch that I look back on very fondly as one of my favorites to perform for fun as a child. And it's also very simple to perform. Just go to Termina Field, get on Epona, go to Milk Road, and save at the owl statue. When you load back in, you'll be on Epona, but the game thinks you're not, because you're not supposed to be after loading in, which allows you to use your C button items. However, the funniest use of this, in my opinion, is to ride Epona as Deku, Zora, and Goron Link. I mean, come on, look at that gap between Link and the saddle. It still makes me laugh to this day. Such an absurd outcome for something so easy to do. And that's the real reason I love these games so much. You can do almost anything in them. That's all I have for you guys today. I did 8 entries on this one again because the explanations are longer. However, let me know in the comments if you think I should always do 10 anyway, or if I should continue to do it based on runtime. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss my next upload. Also, I made a Patreon if anyone wants to further support me in making these videos. It is in no way required, and I'm going to continue making content regardless. But for anyone who does want to support me on Patreon, you will have your username added to the end card of every video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.